Let's see if that's working. Recording. Okay, I think it's recording. So we are going to talk about a little bit about goals. We're going to talk about the importance of setting them really quickly. We're going to talk about how to set good ones. They're called SMART goals, and that's an acronym, S.M.A.R.T, and each of them stands for something. So it's something that you can kind of, you can write out and just go from there with it. But first, I want to go over why we are talking about goal setting. You're probably like, we know goals are important. We know we need to do them. But sometimes I think that we have things in our head that are like, well, I've tried goals before, or, I've written goals before and this happened, or, well, I'm not really a goal kind of person, or something like that. So I really want to just encourage you to, kind of work through whatever it is and just go, I'm just going to do it. And then we're going to give you, have tips for how to set good ones. So I shared a picture in our group that was showing about this study that Harvard did about setting goals, the importance of setting goals. And it's just really cool because it just showed that basically like you're 30 times more likely to succeed if you have clear written goals, not just like in your head, but written out. So the people who had goals did like 10 times better than the people who didn't have goals. So that's great. They just had them in their head though, but you can triple that by having them actually written down too. So if somebody came up to you and they're like, I have a tip for you to do 30 times more successful. They'd be like, yep, I want it. And that is goals clearly written out. I know I've talked to people before and they've had anxiety or something like that about goals. And so if you need to take some time before you set out your goals to kind of identify what's going on with that, sometimes we might think like we're not going to achieve them, or we should, there's sometimes we have some things growing up that cause us to kind of think like aim small or not at all. Because we don't want to like disappoint ourselves, or we don't want to feel like a failure. Or sometimes it's kind of rooted in that scarcity mindset instead of that growth mindset. Sometimes it's low self-esteem. So whatever it is, that might be something to kind of just work through in your mind while you're working on improving your goal setting. Maybe it's just kind of like journaling your way through it, just starting to jot things down and just kind of really think out and brain dump that process of what is it that I have against goals, or what is my limiting belief against them. If it's something like, like I don't want to fail, I don't want to whatever with this goal, I don't want to set goals and then not reach them or something. We're going to talk about how to set goals that work. But even if that happens, there's a couple of things I just want to maybe help walk your mind through and give you some ideas of some verbiage or things to work in your mind when you're going through that. One thing to keep in mind is that there's always growth in setting goals, whether you achieve them or not. So if you spend the next year, say you've never really done goals or been good at setting them, if you've never done that, say you spend 2021 setting clearly written goals and you don't hit a single one of them, you will still experience growth in your character, in your thoughts, in your mindset, because of that, just the power of writing them down. There are processes in the brain when you write things down too, called encoding and things like that. So there's something to writing it down. I know for me, like if I'm listening to something, I need to write it down, and that for some reason, I probably will never go back to my notes, but just that process of writing it down kind of imprinted it in my head. And then just writing these things down, that has a lot of impact on the brain. And so again, you can achieve none of them, but you grew. I'm sure you grew closer towards them, and you really changed your mindset. And sometimes maybe it takes a year just to work on the mindset part of it before you actually start achieving the goals. But we're going to talk about them, like goals being subjective. They're, being something that are very specific, that are vivid. One thing I want you to do is we're going to talk about, clearly defining goals. Use your oils. We know that oils have a powerful effect on the brain. A couple of ones to consider might be like clarity. So if you're thinking like, I'm kind of working on clearly defining my goals and I'm struggling, breathe in some clarity. That'll help define and clarify your goals. I like highest potential, to just kind of open up your brain and give yourself the space to soar. Abundance, if you have the scarcity mindset, like I'm not going to achieve it, or, stuff like that, that's a good oil to use. Motivation, when you just need to do it and stop overthinking it. So when you're writing out goals, we're going to use the SMART acronym. So the SMART acronym is S.M.A.R.T. S stands for specific. If you notice, I've got a lot of great feedback from the Raindrop Reach that we did, setting that specific number of 15 classes in 90 days. When I am doing the 25 drops challenge, I'm getting a lot of feedback from people saying, I'm really having better days. And just having that number, that 25 drops, like I realized I was just doing this, or I was just doing this. And when I add in just a little bit more here to go for that 25 number, I'm finding better, solutions to this and to that and stuff. So there's something about the specificity of numbers and things that we're going to talk about. So if you look at, say, something like, I want to do the Young Living business, that's not a goal. Okay. That's just kind of like a want. It's kind of like starts getting the brain thinking. A specific goal would be, I'm going to read this many books, or I'm going to read this book. Maybe it's just one. Like I'm looking at doing the Young Living business. So my goal is going to be to read this book. And that's that. That's very specific. It's a specific book. Maybe it's, taking it a little bit farther, and you're like, okay, I'm going to have this rank. And so you're like, this is a specific rank, or I'm going to have this many classes. So it's something about very specific. It needs to have parameters. So the next one is measurable. So specific and then measurable. It needs to have parameters in order to know if the goal was achieved. Some things aren't measurable. Some things are still great to achieve, working through mindset and things like that. Those aren't measurable. They're great, but not measurable. So they should have an outcome attached to them that you can measure. For instance, even picking a rank. A rank is measurable in some ways, but how are you going to achieve it? A goal of achieving a rank doesn't necessarily give you measurable goals to get there. So that might expand by saying a certain rank by this many classes a day, or talking to this many people per week, or finding this many people to host a class, or something like that. So again, measurable. Specific, measurable. The next one is attainable. It has to be something that is realistic, but also challenges you. So maybe that might be something like, I'm going to choose to do this activity with my time with 30 minutes of my time at the end of the day, instead of watching TV. Or I'm going to choose to read one chapter in this book instead of scrolling social media mindlessly, or something like that. So that's something that it's attainable. Like I read that chapter. I made 2 phone calls. I did this instead of that, or something like that. So that's S.M.A.R. R is the next one, and that's relevant. Make sure the goal is consistent with your other goals and will aid you in achieving your long-term goals. So sometimes, and we're going to talk about this in another training this month. I think it's the next one. I don't remember. Anyway, we're going to talk about looking at and seeing if what we're doing is productive, if it's actually bringing results in. Because sometimes, it's really easy to get caught up in the busy work of it, but not have results. And that is something that I just want to make sure we can catch, because I would not want to have you spinning your wheels, but not moving forward. If there's something we can just do to fine tune it a little bit so that you're moving forward when your wheels are spinning. So relevant, making sure that it's consistent with what you're looking at. So not something totally different, but not something unproductive either. So this could be like if your goal is you want freedom from, the 9-to-5 job or something, then a SMART goal would say, I will schedule time each day to work my business in order to be debt free and have more freedom with my time by a certain date. So it's in alignment with your other goals. And it's also giving you something specific like a timeline. And then of course, the last one, T, stands for time. So this is probably one of the most important ones ever. And the cool thing is that what happens when you put time on something, you pull out of yourself stuff that was there all along, but maybe just wasn't being utilized. So, and some of you have heard my story before, like when I was close to Diamond, and I was like, it's going to be a while. It's going to be, maybe next year. And the Diamond team leaders gave me like a plaque that said Diamond Team 2018. And I was like, oh no, that means I have to hit it this year. And I didn't give myself that time deadline for it. And I needed to, because what happened was, as soon as they put that timeline on it, I pulled out more of what I had in me the whole time, and it happened. So it's kind of like when we did the 90-day 15 or Raindrop Reach 15 classes in 90 days. What I saw was it was pulling more out of people that they really could have been doing all along and just really didn't know it. And it's like, you've got 90 days. And when we saw a huge push at the end, class in people, because they had that timeline, and it really, like, we just had all these people leveling up and ranking up and stuff, which maybe wouldn't have happened if we hadn't had that time, that measurable time at the end. So, look at that. Maybe it's a rank, maybe it's a certain dollar amount that you're like, I need this much every month because, I want to put into this ministry or something that's on my heart, and I want to pay this bill, or I want to have this much saved up, or whatever it is. Give yourself a timeline for that, like not like a deadline. I don't like that word. There's got to be a better word. But just like that goal date that you'll achieve it by. If you're like me, if you're like a lot of people, your brain is going to go, don't pick a date, because that locks you in. You're not going to make it. What if you don't make it? Let go of that. Just let it go and just be like, I'm going to do it. Now, we talked in the other one, though, remember, about a complete belief. So a complete belief is when your mind, your logical brain believes it, and your emotional brain believes it. So at the same time, I don't want to just be like, just set the date, and if you don't make it, you don't make it, because then we're not going to have that complete belief in our brain. We're going to be like, it's okay, I'm just going to put the number there, but I might not really make it then anyway, So it's like, okay, I need to make it by this date, and I'm not going to think about it if I'm not going to. I'm just going to go full steam ahead, looking at that date, breaking it down. And what I did too, when I had that date for Diamond that I had to get it by, I was like, okay, well, I know I have to get it by November. Because that might be my only choice. Novembers are usually great. And I'm going through it and I go, okay, I have this many months until November. I have to break it down. And every single month I have to increase my volume by this much. And then I'm going to go, okay, well, I didn't increase that month by that much. Now I got to make up for it this next month. And that really, really worked for me. And, so maybe that's another thing to do, just breaking it up like that. Sometimes, just breaking it up like this many members by this many months or this date or something. So however you're going to break it up, you need to have something very specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and then that time on it. So start thinking about how you can do that. You can create a chart for yourself. You can write it down, however you want to do it. And you know what? It would be really fun too if you guys want to post it in the group and be like, here's what I'm looking at for goals. We've had posts in the past where we've done some of that kind of stuff, and it was really, really fun. We can help fine tune it. We can say like, well, what about this of your goal? Does it have this to it? Is it measurable? Do you have a time on it? Stuff like that. But we've had some things like that. And I will tell you too, I think it was last year. I don't even remember what I did. I remember I have the paper still. I wrote it down. The people who, they had to like turn in their goals. Maybe it was a year before. I'll have to go look and see. Maybe that'd be fun to do it again. But I remember the people, the way that they phrased their goals, I could look at them and go, that's not going to happen, just by the way they phrased it. And I looked back on it a year later and I went, I was exactly right. There was a huge correlation between the way that somebody wrote it out and whether it happened or not. So the people who are just like super vague and like, yeah, I'm going to have this by next spring or something. It was like, it never happened. Or maybe it happened a year later or something. And the people who were like really getting in there and they were like, I'm going to this and that by this, and this was how I'm going to do it. It happened. So that's why I wanted to tell you guys about the SMART goal model and things like that. I hope that was helpful. I think we're at 20 minutes is what we keep it to, so I can try to make the best use of your guys' time. But that's what I have for you guys. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm actually going to stop the recording here. And how do I do that?